Listen to me carefully, Olivia. Whether you like it or not, you are going to marry Chief Akwabata.
No, Mama, I can't.
Why can't you?
Because he's old enough to be my father. I don't love him.
Love?
Yes, I already have someone I love, and he loves me too.
My daughter, you are still living in a dream.
It's not a dream, Mama. Felix is a good man.
A good man? Can your good man pay our rent?
He is hardworking. He will succeed one day.
One day, we'll one day buy food for this house. We'll one day pay hospital bills. We'll one day change our lives.
Money isn't everything.
Then tell me, does love put food on the table? Does love buy expensive cars?
No.
Does love build beautiful houses?
No.
Does love pay school fees?
Mama.
Answer me.
No.
Then stop talking to me about love.
I don't want to spend the rest of my life with a man I don't love.
And I don't want to bury my daughter in poverty.
Happiness cannot be bought with money.
Poverty steals happiness every single day.
I would rather struggle with the man I love than live in luxury with a man my heart doesn't want.
That is because you have never truly suffered. I have. I know what poverty can do. I know what it feels like to sleep hungry. I know what it feels like to beg landlords for more time. I will never allow you to make the same mistake I made.
So you want me to sacrifice my happiness?
I want you to secure your future.
By marrying a man I don't love?
Love can grow later, but poverty destroys love every day.
Mama, please don't force me.
I am your mother and I know what is best for you. Chief Akwabata is rich, respected and kind. The day you marry him, our lives will change forever.
Mama, please.
Even if my heart breaks, a broken heart can heal, but an empty stomach cannot feed itself.
Chief Akwabata Okonkwo was one of the richest and most respected businessmen in Lagos. People across Nigeria knew his name. His companies were involved in oil, real estate, manufacturing, banking, and many other successful businesses. Thousands of people worked for him, and many families depended on his companies for their daily bread. Whenever newspapers wrote about successful businessmen, his name was always at the top of the list. Television stations often invited him for interviews because people admired how he had built his wealth from nothing. Young entrepreneurs looked up to him and wanted to become like him one day. Politicians invited him to important events. Celebrities wanted to take pictures with him. Everywhere he went, people greeted him with respect because they knew he had worked hard to become successful. His wealth allowed him to live a life that many people only dreamed about. He owned beautiful mansions in different parts of Nigeria, including a breathtaking mansion in one of the most expensive neighborhoods in Lagos. His garage was filled with expensive luxury cars. He owned a private jet that took him to different countries for business meetings. He also owned a private yacht where he sometimes entertained important guests. His life looked perfect from the outside, and many people believed he had everything a man could ever want. But behind the expensive clothes, luxury cars, and smiling face was a lonely man whose heart still carried pain that money could not heal. Every evening, after a long day of meetings and business activities, he returned to his huge mansion. The mansion was beautiful, but it was always quiet. The large dining table had enough seats for many people, yet he usually ate alone. The sitting room was filled with expensive furniture, but there was no wife sitting beside him to ask how his day had gone. The silence in the house reminded him every day that wealth could buy comfort but could never replace true love. Many years earlier, Chief Akwabata had fallen deeply in love with a beautiful Jamaican woman. They had met during an international business conference in London. She was intelligent, confident, and charming. Their friendship quickly became love, and after dating for some time, they got married. At first, everything seemed perfect. Chief Akwabata believed he had finally found the woman who would spend the rest of her life with him. He brought her to Nigeria, hoping they would build a happy family together. Sadly, things did not go as planned. Living in Nigeria became difficult for her. She struggled to understand the culture. She missed her family and friends back home. Small disagreements slowly turned into serious arguments. They tried to save their marriage through counseling and many heartfelt conversations, but the love they once shared continued to fade. Years passed without them having children, and eventually they accepted that the marriage had reached its end. The divorce broke Chief Akwabata's heart. Although he remained successful in business, he became very careful about relationships. Many women suddenly became interested in him after learning how wealthy he was. but he could easily tell that they loved his money more than they loved him. Some sent expensive gifts, others found excuses to meet him. A few even boldly told him they wanted to marry him. But Chief Akwabata had learned a painful lesson. He no longer wanted a woman who saw him as a walking bank account. He wanted someone who would love him even if he owned nothing. Because of this, he remained single for many years, focusing almost all of his attention on growing his business empire. One sunny afternoon, Chief Akwabata attended an important business meeting at one of the finest shopping malls in Victoria Island, Lagos. The meeting lasted for several hours, during which he discussed a new investment project with foreign partners. When the meeting finally ended, he walked toward the underground parking area where his driver was waiting beside one of his luxury vehicles. His personal assistant followed behind him, carrying important files. Before entering the car, Chief Akwabata looked around the busy shopping mall. Families walked happily from one store to another. Children laughed while holding ice cream. Young couples took pictures together. Workers hurried from one place to another. It was an ordinary afternoon, yet life seemed full of energy. As his driver opened the car door for him, something caught his attention. A short distance away stood a young woman beside an elderly woman. They were waiting patiently near the entrance of the mall. The weather was very hot, and the afternoon sun was shining brightly. Although many people rushed past them, the two women remained calm as they looked at a mobile phone, probably checking the location of the ride they had ordered. Chief Akwabata found himself looking at the young woman longer than he intended. There was something different about her. She was naturally beautiful without trying too hard to attract attention. She wore a simple but neat dress that showed she respected herself. She had no heavy makeup on her face, yet her beauty stood out effortlessly. Her posture was confident but not proud. She spoke quietly to the older woman with respect and kindness. Unlike many young ladies he had met at social events, she did not seem interested in showing off or attracting attention. Chief Akwabata smiled gently. "There is something special about that young lady," he said softly. His personal assistant followed his gaze. "Should we leave now, sir?" he asked. Chief Akwabata looked at the young woman once more before answering. "Wait for a moment. I would like to greet them." His assistant nodded without asking further questions. Chief Akwabata slowly walked toward the two women with a warm smile on his face. As he approached them, both women looked up. "Good afternoon," he said politely. "I hope I'm not disturbing you." The younger woman looked at him carefully before replying. "Good afternoon, sir," she answered politely but briefly. She did not smile too much because she believed strangers should be treated with caution. The older woman immediately smiled warmly. "Good afternoon, sir," she replied. "Please forgive my daughter if she seems reserved. I raised her to be careful when speaking with people she does not know." Chief Akwabata nodded with understanding. "That is actually a good quality," he said kindly. "The world today is not as safe as it used to be." The older woman smiled. "Thank you for understanding. My name is Ezine Ngosu." "It is a pleasure to meet you, Madam Ezine," Chief Akwabata replied. "My name is Akwabata Okonkwo." Olivia simply nodded politely again. She had heard the name before because almost everyone in Nigeria knew who Chief Akwabata was, but she did not react differently because of his wealth. Chief Akwabata noticed this immediately. Most people became overly excited whenever they recognized him, but Olivia remained calm. He admired her even more because of that. "And what is your name?" he asked gently, looking at the young woman. "My name is Olivia Nwoso," she answered respectfully. "It is nice to meet you, sir." "The pleasure is mine," Chief Akwabata replied with a smile. "Are you both waiting for someone?" Ezine answered before Olivia could speak. "We ordered a ride home, but the driver is taking longer than expected because of traffic." Chief Akwabata nodded. "Traffic in Lagos can test anyone's patience," he said with a light laugh. Ezine laughed too. "That is very true." Wanting to know more about the young woman who had quietly captured his attention, Chief Akwabata asked another question. "Are you still in school, Olivia?" Olivia shook her head gently. "No, sir. I graduated recently." Before she could say anything else, her proud mother quickly continued. "She graduated with a first-class degree. I thank God every day because she worked very hard. It was not easy raising her alone." Chief Akwabata looked surprised. First class, he repeated with genuine admiration. That is wonderful. Congratulations. Thank you very much, sir, Olivia replied humbly. You must be very proud of her, Chief Akwabata said, turning to Ezine. Ezine smiled proudly, but there was sadness in her eyes. Very proud, she answered. Her father abandoned us many years ago. Since then, it has been just the two of us. Life has not been easy, but God has been faithful. Chief Akwabata became quiet for a moment. He could hear the pain hidden behind her words. You have done an excellent job, he said sincerely. Your daughter is respectful, educated, and well-mannered. That speaks highly of your sacrifice as a mother. Ezine smiled gratefully. Thank you, sir. Those words mean a lot to me. Just then, Chief Akwabata reached into the pocket of his expensive suit and brought out one of his complimentary business cards. He handed it to Ezine. Please, keep this, he said kindly. If you ever need to reach me for anything reasonable, feel free to call. Ezine accepted the card with both hands. Thank you very much, sir. Chief Akwabata then reached into another pocket and brought out some cash. He stretched it toward Ezine. Please, use this for your transportation today. Ezine looked shocked. Sir, this is too much. It is not too much, he replied gently. Please, accept it. Think of it as a small act of kindness. Olivia immediately spoke. Sir, you really do not have to. Chief Akwabata interrupted her politely with a smile. I know I do not have to. I simply want to help. Seeing the sincerity in his eyes, Olivia became silent. Ezine accepted the money with gratitude. Thank you so much, she said emotionally. May God continue to bless you. Chief Akwabata smiled warmly. Thank you. I wish both of you a safe journey home. Thank you, sir, Olivia replied respectfully. It was nice meeting you. The pleasure was all mine, Chief Akwabata answered, before walking back toward his waiting vehicle. His driver quickly opened the door for him. As the car slowly pulled away from the shopping mall, Chief Akwabata looked through the window one last time. Olivia was still standing beside her mother, patiently waiting for their ride, without any excitement over the money or his expensive car. She had treated him with simple respect, nothing more, nothing less. Leaning back in his seat, he smiled quietly to himself. For the first time in many years, he found himself thinking about someone he had just met. There was something about Olivia's humility, intelligence, caution, and sincerity that refused to leave his mind. Unlike the many women who surrounded wealthy men because of money, she had behaved like someone who valued character more than riches. As his car disappeared into the busy streets of Lagos, Chief Akwabata realized he could not stop thinking about the intelligent young woman whose sincerity seemed completely different from the women who constantly surrounded wealthy men like him. The ride home from Victoria Island was quiet for most of the journey. Olivia sat beside her mother in the back seat of the ride they had ordered, looking out through the window as the busy streets of Lagos slowly passed by. Cars filled the roads, traders displayed their goods by the roadside, and pedestrians hurried from one place to another. Ezine, however, could not stop thinking about the wealthy businessman they had just met outside the shopping mall. Every few minutes, she looked at the business card in her hand as though it was a winning lottery ticket. A smile remained on her face throughout the journey. When they finally arrived at their small apartment, Ezine unlocked the door, stepped inside, and carefully placed the business card on the small center table before sitting down with a deep sigh. Olivia dropped her handbag on a chair and headed toward the kitchen to get a glass of water. Before she could even take a sip, her mother called her. Olivia, come here for a minute. Olivia smiled because she already knew what the conversation would be about. She returned to the sitting room and sat opposite her mother. Yes, Mama, she asked. Ezine folded her arms and looked at her daughter. You are too cold to that man today. Olivia laughed softly. Mama, what did you expect me to do? Hug a complete stranger because he was rich? Ezine shook her head. Don't joke with me. That man greeted you with respect. He was polite. He was humble. Yet you answered him like someone who wanted the conversation to end immediately. Olivia smiled again. That is because I didn't know him. These days, people pretend to be nice. A woman must be careful. Ezine pointed a finger gently at her. Being careful is different from pushing good people away. Olivia sat comfortably on the sofa. I wasn't rude. I greeted him politely. I answered his questions. What else did you want? Ezine sighed deeply. Sometimes I wonder if you even notice opportunities when they come. Olivia raised an eyebrow. Opportunity? Yes, Ezine replied. Do you know who that man is? Olivia nodded. Of course I know. Everybody knows Chief Akwabata Okonkwo. Then you should understand why I'm talking like this, Ezine continued excitedly. That man is respected everywhere, yet he stood under the hot sun talking to ordinary people like us without pride. Olivia shrugged her shoulders. Money doesn't make someone a good person, Mama. But good manners do, Ezine answered. Did you not notice how humble he was? He even gave us money for transportation without making us feel embarrassed. Olivia looked at her mother seriously. Mama, I appreciated his kindness, but I cannot become close to someone simply because he has money. That is not who I am. Ezine leaned back in her chair. You are too young to understand. Poverty teaches lessons that comfort never can. Olivia reached for her mother's hand. I know life has been difficult for us. I know everything you suffered after Daddy left us, but I don't want money to control the choices I make. Ezine became quiet for a moment before speaking again. I have spent many years praying that God would change our lives. Maybe today was the beginning of that answer. Olivia smiled gently. Mama, you are already planning things that don't exist. Ezine laughed. Maybe I am, but something tells me that meeting was not ordinary. Olivia stood up and carried her glass back to the kitchen. Well, whatever happens, happens, but I won't chase any man because he is rich. Who said anything about chasing him? Ezine called after her. I only said you should have been warmer. Olivia laughed from the kitchen. You have already married me off in your mind. The two women laughed together, and for a moment, the conversation ended. Unknown to Ezine, Olivia's heart already belonged to someone else. Later that evening, after helping her mother prepare dinner, Olivia went into her bedroom and picked up her phone. She smiled as she saw several missed calls from Felix Okafor. She quickly returned one of the calls. Hello, Felix said happily as soon as he answered. Finally, I've been trying to reach you. Olivia smiled warmly. Sorry, I was with my mother. How was your day? Felix asked. It was fine, she replied. Something interesting happened today. Tell me. Olivia sat on the edge of her bed. We met Chief Akwabata Okonkwo at the shopping mall. There was silence for a second. The billionaire? Felix asked. Yes. Wow, that's surprising. What happened? Olivia briefly explained everything, including how the businessman had greeted them politely and given her mother money for transportation. Felix laughed loudly. Sounds like he was just being kind. Exactly, she replied. But Mama has been talking about him ever since we came home. Felix laughed even louder. Mothers always dream big. Olivia smiled. She said I was too cold. Felix teased. Were you? Olivia laughed. Maybe a little. Felix became serious. Well, whether he's rich or not, I know the woman I love. Olivia smiled warmly. And I know the man I love too. One day, Felix said confidently, I will become successful. I may not be rich now, but I promise you I will build a good life for us. Olivia closed her eyes for a moment. I believe you. Thank you for believing in me. They continued talking for almost an hour about their dreams, careers, and future plans before finally ending the call. Meanwhile, on the other side of Lagos, Chief Akwabata sat inside one of the city's finest private restaurants with his closest friend and longtime business associate, Chief Ugochukwu Eze. The two men had been friends for over 30 years and trusted each other completely. Their friendship had survived business challenges, political changes, and many personal struggles. As they enjoyed dinner, Ugochukwu noticed that Chief Akwabata seemed unusually thoughtful. What is wrong with you today? He asked while smiling. You have been staring at your food for the past 5 minutes. Chief Akwabata smiled faintly. Nothing is wrong. Ugochukwu laughed. I know you too well. Something is on your mind. Chief Akwabata took a sip of water before replying. Maybe there is. Ugochukwu leaned forward with curiosity. Tell me. Chief Akwabata smiled quietly. I met someone today. Ugochukwu's eyes widened. A business partner? No. A politician? No. Ugochukwu smiled mischievously. A woman? Chief Akwabata laughed softly. Yes, Ugochukwu almost dropped his spoon. After all these years, Chief Akwabata nodded slowly. She is different. Different how? Ugochukwu asked. Chief Akwabata smiled as he remembered Olivia standing calmly beside her mother. She didn't care who I was. Ugochukwu frowned. Impossible. It is true, Chief Akwabata replied. She greeted me politely, answered my questions respectfully, but treated me like an ordinary stranger. Ugochukwu laughed loudly. Maybe she didn't recognize you. Chief Akwabata shook his head. She did. Then why wasn't she excited? Chief Akwabata smiled. Because she was careful. She was not interested in my wealth. She simply behaved like a sensible young woman. Ugochukwu looked at him carefully. You like her? Chief Akwabata smiled without denying it. I admire her. Ugochukwu laughed again. My friend, do you know how many women would gladly accept your proposal today? If you announce tomorrow that you want a wife, thousands will line up outside your gate. Chief Akwabata shook his head. That is exactly the problem. What do you mean? Ugochukwu asked. Most of them would be coming because of my money, Chief Akwabata answered quietly. I don't want another marriage built on wealth. I want someone who genuinely cares about me. Ugochukwu nodded slowly. And you think this young woman is different? Yes, Chief Akwabata replied honestly. She was cautious. She respected herself. She did not try to impress me. She did not ask for anything. Those qualities are rare. Ugochukwu smiled warmly. Then be patient. I intend to be, Chief Akwabata answered. Real love cannot be rushed. Several weeks passed. Life continued normally for Olivia and her mother. One afternoon, after looking at Chief Akwabata's business card several times over many days, Ezine finally gathered the courage to call the number printed on it. She did not expect him to answer personally, but to her surprise, he did. Good afternoon, he said warmly over the phone. Chief Akwabata speaking. Ezine immediately became nervous. Good afternoon, sir. My name is Ezine. We met outside the shopping mall some weeks ago. Chief Akwabata smiled as he remembered. Madame Ezine, of course I remember you. How are you? We are fine, sir. Thank you again for your kindness that day. You are most welcome. After a short conversation, Ezine invited him to visit their home whenever he had time. Chief Akwabata politely accepted. 2 days later, one of his vehicles stopped outside their modest apartment. Neighbors immediately noticed the expensive car and quietly wondered who such an important visitor could be. Chief Akwabata entered the house with humility, greeting everyone politely. He accepted the simple meal Ezine prepared without complaining that it was different from the expensive food he usually ate. During their conversation, Ezine gradually opened her heart. She spoke about her failed marriage, how her husband abandoned them without looking back, and how she struggled to raise Olivia alone. She described working different small jobs just to pay school fees. She remembered days when there was barely enough food in the house. She spoke about humiliation, rejection, unpaid rent, and sleepless nights. Tears filled her eyes as painful memories returned. Chief Akwabata listened quietly without interrupting. There were days, Ezine said softly, that I cried myself to sleep because I didn't know where the next meal would come from. But I refused to give up because of my daughter. Chief Akwabata nodded respectfully. You are a strong woman, he said sincerely. Not everyone could survive what you went through. Ezine wiped away her tears. God gave me strength. There was a brief silence before Chief Akwabata spoke again. Madame Ezine, he began respectfully. I want to be honest with you. Ezine looked curiously. Go ahead, sir. Chief Akwabata smiled gently. I admire your daughter very much. I would like the opportunity to know her better, but only if she is comfortable with it. I would never force myself into her life. Ezine's heart almost jumped with excitement, but she remained calm on the outside. Thank you for your honesty, she replied. I appreciate your respect. After spending more time talking together, Chief Akwabata stood up to leave because he had an overseas business trip the following morning. Before walking out of the house, he quietly handed Ezine an envelope. She looked surprised. "Sir, what is this?" she asked. "Please accept it," Chief Akwabata replied kindly. "It is not payment. It is not a gift with conditions. It is simply support for a family that has worked hard through difficult times." Ezine hesitated. "I don't know what to say." Chief Akwabata smiled warmly. "You don't have to say anything. Just continue being the wonderful mother you have always been." He shook her hand respectfully before walking to his waiting vehicle. After the car disappeared from the street, Ezine slowly opened the envelope inside the house. The amount of money inside made her eyes widen with disbelief. She sat down quietly, holding the envelope tightly against her chest as tears filled her eyes. At that very moment, she became completely convinced that heaven had finally answered every prayer she had prayed for years, and she firmly believed that Chief Akwabata Okonkwo was the man destined to change her daughter's life forever. The money Chief Akwabata left behind completely changed the way Ezine looked at him. Every morning she remembered his kindness, and every night before going to bed, she thanked God for bringing such a wealthy and respectful man into their lives. To her, Chief Akwabata was no longer just a successful businessman. He had become the answer to every prayer she had prayed during the many years she struggled to raise Olivia alone. She believed with all her heart that no better husband could ever be found for her daughter. From that day, she slowly began looking for every opportunity to convince Olivia to forget Felix and give Chief Akwabata a chance instead. Unfortunately, Olivia did not share her mother's opinion. She loved Felix deeply and believed that a person's character was far more important than the size of his bank account. One evening, after dinner, Ezine sat quietly in the sitting room while Olivia washed the dishes in the kitchen. "Olivia," she called gently, "can you come here for a minute?" Olivia wiped her hand with a towel and joined her mother. "Yes, Mama. Is everything all right?" Ezine smiled. "Sit down." Olivia sat opposite her and waited patiently. Ezine looked at her daughter carefully before speaking. "Have you thought about what I told you concerning Chief Akwabata?" Olivia smiled faintly because she already knew where the conversation was going. "Mama, we have discussed this many times, and we will keep discussing it until you understand," Ezine replied. Olivia sighed softly. "There is nothing to understand. I respect him very much, but I do not love him." Ezine leaned forward. "Love can grow." Olivia shook her head. "Not when my heart already belongs to someone else." "Felix again?" Ezine asked with disappointment. "Yes," Olivia answered confidently. "I love Felix." Ezine sighed deeply. "My daughter, listen to me carefully. I have lived much longer than you. There are things I have seen that you have not seen." Olivia remained quiet. "When I married your father," Ezine continued, "I believed love was enough. I thought as long as we loved each other, life would be beautiful. But when money disappeared, everything changed. Poverty entered our home and destroyed our happiness. Your father left us because life became difficult. I suffered, you suffered. We both know the pain we went through." Olivia looked down for a moment before speaking softly. "I know, Mama. I remember everything." Ezine held her daughter's hand. "Then don't choose the same path I followed. Love alone cannot pay hospital bills. Love cannot pay children's school fees. Love cannot buy food when the kitchen is empty. Love cannot repair a leaking roof." Olivia looked into her mother's eyes. "Money is important, Mama. I know that. But happiness cannot be bought with money either." Ezine shook her head. "You only say that because you have never experienced the kind of suffering I went through." Olivia smiled sadly. "Mama, I watched you struggle all my life. That is exactly why I want a man with a good heart. Money can come later." Ezine stood up in frustration. "You are making a terrible mistake." Olivia remained calm. "No, Mama, I am following my heart." Their conversation ended without agreement. From that day onward, similar discussions became common inside the house. Almost every week, Ezine reminded Olivia about Chief Akubata's kindness, while Olivia continued defending her relationship with Felix. Slowly, peace began disappearing from their once peaceful home. Meanwhile, Felix remained completely unaware of how strongly Ezine opposed him. A few days later, he visited their house carrying a small bag of fresh fruits. As always, he greeted Ezine respectfully. "Good evening, Mama." Ezine forced a smile. "Good evening." Felix handed her the bag. "I brought these fruits for you." Ezine accepted them without much excitement. "Thank you." Olivia came out from her room with a bright smile. "Felix." "Hello," he said happily. "I missed you." "I missed you too." They both sat down while Ezine remained in the sitting room pretending to watch television. After a few minutes, she suddenly turned down the volume and faced Felix. "Young man." Felix smiled politely. "Yes, Mama." "How is work?" "Work is going well, Mama, thank God." "What exactly are you earning every month?" she asked directly. Felix was surprised, but answered respectfully. "It is not much for now, but I believe it will improve." Ezine folded her arms. "How soon?" Felix smiled happily. "I am working very hard. I believe things will change." Ezine folded her arms. "Believing is different from reality." Olivia immediately interrupted. "Mama," but Ezine continued. "Can you afford to buy a house?" Felix smiled awkwardly. "Not yet." "Can you buy a car?" "Not yet." "Can you comfortably provide for a wife?" Felix remained respectful. "I may not have everything today, but I am determined to succeed. I am saving money. I am improving my skills. I know my future will be better." Ezine gave a dry laugh. "Young man, promises do not feed families." Felix lowered his head briefly before answering. "I understand your concerns, Mama, but I truly love Olivia and I promise to work hard every single day." Ezine looked at him seriously. "Do you know Chief Akubata Okonkwo?" Felix nodded. "Everybody knows him. That man has already achieved everything you are still dreaming about." Olivia quickly stood up. "Mama, please stop." Ezine looked at her daughter. "I am only telling the truth." Felix forced a smile despite being embarrassed. "Thank you for your advice, Mama." Shortly afterward, he politely excused himself and left the house. Outside, Olivia followed him. "I'm so sorry," she said sadly. Felix smiled gently. "Don't worry. She shouldn't have spoken to you like that." Felix sighed. "She wants the best for you." Olivia held his hand. "You are the best for me." Felix smiled warmly. "One day, I will prove her that she was wrong." Olivia believed confidently. "I believe in you." As the weeks passed, Ezine became even more determined to bring Chief Akubata closer to the family. She often called him to thank him again for his previous kindness. Their conversations remained respectful and friendly. One afternoon, Chief Akubata stopped by the house after attending a business meeting nearby. Ezine welcomed him warmly and served him refreshments. They sat together in the sitting room discussing different topics. During the conversation, Ezine deliberately sighed deeply. Chief Akubata noticed immediately. "Is everything all right?" he asked kindly. Ezine smiled weakly. "Everything is fine, sir." "You don't look fine." She hesitated for a moment before speaking. "Transportation has become very difficult these days." Chief Akubata listened quietly. Ezine continued. "Just yesterday, Olivia and I were trekking home after the buses refused to stop for us. A reckless driver almost knocked us down while trying to overtake another vehicle. We were lucky to escape." Chief Akubata's face became serious. "Were either of you injured?" "No," Ezine replied. "God protected us." Chief Akubata simply nodded. "I'm glad you are both safe." He did not ask any more questions about transportation, nor did he make any promises. Instead, the conversation moved to another topic before he eventually stood up to leave. As he walked toward his car, Ezine quietly smiled to herself. She believed he had understood her message. The following morning, the peaceful neighborhood suddenly became unusually noisy. A large vehicle carrying a brand new luxury SUV slowly entered the compound where Olivia and her mother lived. Neighbors rushed outside to see what was happening. Children gathered around the shining vehicle while adults whispered among themselves. A well-dressed representative stepped out carrying a file. "Is this the residence of Miss Olivia Nwosu?" Azine hurried outside. "Yes, what is happening?" The man smiled politely. "This vehicle has been delivered on behalf of Chief Akwabata Okonkwo." Azine covered her mouth in shock. "What?" The representative handed her the documents. "The vehicle has been registered in Miss Olivia Nwosu's name." Azine screamed with excitement. "Praise God!" Her loud voice attracted even more neighbors. Everyone admired the expensive SUV parked in front of the house. Some congratulated Azine, others could hardly believe what they were seeing. "Your daughter is truly blessed," one neighbor said. "This is the kind of miracle people pray for," another added. Azine smiled proudly as she walked around the vehicle, touching it carefully. "God has remembered my family," she said repeatedly. Later that afternoon, Olivia returned home from an interview with Felix walking beside her. As they entered the compound, both of them stopped suddenly. The beautiful SUV stood proudly in front of the house. Olivia frowned with confusion. "Whose car is this?" she asked. Before anyone answered, Azine rushed outside, smiling from ear to ear. "Olivia!" she shouted excitedly. "Come and see your new car." Olivia looked confused. "My car?" "Yes," Azine answered proudly. "Chief Akwabata bought it for you." Olivia's eyes widened with disbelief. "What?" Felix remained completely silent. Azine handed Olivia the vehicle documents. "Everything is in your name." Olivia looked at the papers for only a few seconds before returning them. "No." Azine looked surprised. "What do you mean, no?" Olivia shook her head firmly. "I cannot accept this." "Why?" Azine almost shouted. "Because I have no relationship with him. He has no reason to buy me such an expensive gift." Azine became frustrated. "He bought it because he cares about you." Olivia looked serious. "That is exactly the problem. Accepting this will send the wrong message." Azine tried to persuade her. "At least appreciate his kindness." Olivia folded her arms. "Kindness has limits. This is too much." Felix finally spoke quietly. "Olivia is right. It is a very expensive gift." Azine looked angrily at him. "Nobody asked for your opinion." Felix immediately became silent. Olivia turned to her mother. "Mama, I cannot keep this." "Then at least call him," Azine pleaded. "Thank him respectfully." Olivia remained silent for a few moments before finally agreeing. She took out her phone and dialed Chief Akwabata's number. He answered after a few rings. "Good afternoon, Olivia." "Good afternoon, sir." "How are you?" "I am fine, sir." There was a brief silence before Olivia spoke again. "Sir, thank you very much for the vehicle." Chief Akwabata smiled gently. "You are welcome." Olivia took a deep breath. "I truly appreciate your kindness, but I honestly cannot accept such an expensive gift." Chief Akwabata remained calm. "Why not?" "Because we do not have that kind of relationship," answered Olivia honestly. "I do not want to misunderstand your kindness, and I do not want anyone else to misunderstand it either." There was another short silence before Chief Akwabata replied softly. "I understand your concern." Olivia continued. "My mother may use it if she wants, but I will never drive it because I believe accepting it personally would send the wrong message." Chief Akwabata smiled gently, even though she could not see him. "Thank you for being honest with me." Olivia sounded relieved. "I hope I have not offended you." "Not at all," he answered calmly. "Your honesty is one of the reasons I respect you. Never apologize for doing what you believe is right." Olivia smiled faintly. "Thank you for understanding." "Take care of yourself," Chief Akwabata said warmly. "You too, sir," Olivia replied before ending the call. As he placed his phone on his desk, Chief Akwabata did not feel angry or embarrassed. Instead, he smiled quietly to himself. He admired Olivia even more because she had chosen honesty over expensive gifts. Unlike many people who would have accepted the SUV without hesitation, she refused to let wealth influence her principles. Rather than becoming upset because she rejected such an extravagant gift, Chief Akwabata remained patient, understanding, and respectful, once again proving that true maturity is shown not by how much money a person has, but by how gracefully they accept another person's choices. Several weeks passed after the incident with the luxury SUV. Although Olivia had politely refused to accept the expensive gift, life gradually returned to normal. She remained focused on finding a good job while continuing her relationship with Felix. The pressure from her mother never stopped. Almost every day, Ezine reminded her that Chief Akwabata was still interested in her and that no sensible woman would reject such a wealthy and kind man. Olivia always gave the same answer. Mama, I have already made my choice. I love Felix. Even though the arguments continued, Olivia refused to change her mind. Felix also noticed that Ezine no longer welcomed him warmly whenever he visited the house. Instead of allowing that to discourage him, he became more determined to prove that he truly loved Olivia. One evening, while they were talking on the phone, Felix smiled to himself after Olivia ended the call. He looked around his apartment and quietly whispered, "It is time." He had been planning something special for several weeks. He wanted to ask Olivia to marry him before anyone or anything came between them. The next few days were filled with secret preparations. Felix ordered fresh flowers from a florist. He bought beautiful balloons and candles. He printed several photographs they had taken together during their university days, birthdays, church programs, and outings. He carefully arranged everything inside his apartment, making sure every corner looked perfect. In the center of the sitting room, he placed a large banner that read, "Olivia, will you marry me?" On a small table beside the banner rested a beautiful engagement ring inside a red box. Felix looked around the apartment with satisfaction. "She deserves this," he said to himself. "I may not have much money today, but I will give her all the love in my heart." The following Saturday afternoon, Felix called Olivia. "Are you free this evening?" he asked. "Yes," Olivia replied. "Why?" Felix smiled. "I have a surprise for you." Olivia laughed. "Another surprise?" "Yes, but this one is special." "Should I be worried?" she teased. "No," Felix answered with a laugh. "Just come to my apartment by 6 p.m. Olivia smiled. "All right, I'll be there." That evening, Olivia wore a simple but beautiful dress. Before leaving the house, her mother noticed her excitement. "Where are you going?" Ezine asked. Olivia smiled shyly. "Felix invited me over." Ezine frowned immediately. "Again?" Olivia sighed. "Mama, please, I don't want another argument." Ezine folded her arms. "One day you will remember my words." Olivia kissed her mother's cheek. "Don't worry so much." She left before another argument could begin. About 30 minutes later, Olivia arrived at Felix's apartment. She knocked gently on the door. Felix opened it with a nervous smile. "Welcome." Olivia noticed that he looked unusually excited. "Why are you smiling like that?" she asked. Felix laughed softly. "Come inside." As Olivia entered the apartment, she stopped walking. Her eyes widened with surprise. The room had been transformed into something beautiful. Fresh flowers covered the tables. Colorful balloons decorated the walls. Soft candles filled the room with warm light. Their photographs were carefully arranged everywhere, showing happy memories they had shared over the years. In the center of the room stood the large banner asking her to marry him. Olivia covered her mouth with both hands. Tears immediately filled her eyes. "Felix," she whispered. Felix slowly walked toward her. "Do you like it?" Olivia nodded repeatedly. "This is beautiful." Felix smiled. "Every picture here reminds me of a special moment we shared. Every memory reminds me why I love you." Olivia could no longer stop her tears. Felix gently took her hand. "From the first day I met you at the university, I knew there was something different about you. You believed in me when I had nothing. You encouraged me when life became difficult. You stood beside me when others looked down on me because I wasn't rich. Olivia, you have become the greatest blessing in my life." Olivia smiled through her tears. Felix! He slowly went down on one knee and opened the small red box containing the engagement ring. Olivia, no, Sue, I may not be the richest man today, but I promise to spend the rest of my life loving you, protecting you, respecting you, and working hard to build a beautiful future for us. Will you marry me? Olivia burst into tears of joy. She nodded several times before finally speaking. Yes. Felix smiled brightly. Is that really your answer? Olivia laughed while crying. Yes, Felix, yes, I will marry you. Felix carefully placed the ring on her finger before standing up and hugging her tightly. The two of them laughed together, completely overwhelmed with happiness. I can't believe this, Olivia whispered. Felix smiled. One day we will tell our children about this moment. Olivia looked into his eyes. I don't care that we are not rich. As long as we are together, we will build our future step by step. Felix kissed her forehead gently. Thank you for believing in me. They were about to cut the small celebration cake Felix had prepared when a loud knock echoed through the apartment. Everyone became silent. Felix looked confused. Were you expecting anyone? Olivia asked. Felix shook his head. Before either of them could move toward the door, another louder knock followed. Open the door, a deep voice shouted from outside. Felix looked surprised. Who could that be? He walked toward the door and slowly opened it. Suddenly, several heavily armed officers rushed inside the apartment. They wore jackets with the letters EFCE boldly written across them. Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, one officer shouted loudly. Nobody move! Olivia screamed in fear and stepped backward. Felix looked completely shocked. Officers, what is happening? The leader of the team looked directly at him. Are you Felix Okafor? Yes. You are arrested for cyber fraud, money laundering, identity theft, and other financial crimes. Olivia stared at the officers in disbelief. There must be a mistake, she said quickly. Felix looked equally confused. I think you have the wrong person. The officer pulled out some documents. We have a valid arrest warrant. Search the apartment. Immediately, several investigators spread across the apartment. They opened drawers, searched cupboards, collected laptops, mobile phones, external hard drives, documents, expensive wristwatches, and several electronic devices. Olivia watched everything with trembling hands. Felix, she whispered, tell them this is a mistake. Felix remained speechless. One officer opened a hidden cabinet and removed several bundles of documents together with foreign currencies. Another officer carried out multiple laptop computers. Sir, one investigator called, we found more evidence here. Olivia looked from one officer to another. No, this can't be happening. The lead officer faced Felix again. Mr. Felix Okafor, you have the right to remain silent. Another officer stepped forward and placed handcuffs on Felix's wrists. Olivia immediately ran toward them. Please stop, she cried. He hasn't done anything. Tears rolled freely down her face. Felix, say something. Felix lowered his head without speaking. Olivia grabbed his arm. Tell them they are wrong. But Felix remained silent. As the officers led him toward the door, Olivia followed them outside, crying uncontrollably. Curious neighbors gathered around the building, watching the dramatic scene. Some whispered among themselves, others recorded videos with their phones. Olivia could hardly breathe. She watched helplessly as Felix was placed inside one of the official vehicles. Before the convoy drove away, she shouted his name repeatedly, Felix! Felix! But the vehicles disappeared into the busy streets of Lagos, leaving her standing outside in complete shock. That night, Olivia cried until her eyes became swollen. She refused to eat or answer anyone's questions. Ezine tried speaking to her, but Olivia remained silent. I know this is painful, she said softly. Maybe everything will be explained tomorrow. Olivia looked at her mother with tear-filled eyes. Felix cannot be a criminal. Ezine sighed. Let us wait and see. The following morning, Chief Akuabata heard the shocking news through one of his trusted associates. Although he knew Olivia would probably not want to see him, he could not ignore her pain. He drove to her house and politely greeted Ezine before asking if he could speak to Olivia. She reluctantly agreed. When Olivia entered the sitting room, her eyes were red from crying. Chief Akwabata looked at her with genuine concern. I am sorry you are going through this. Olivia could barely speak. I don't understand what is happening. Chief Akwabata remained calm. Would you like us to visit him? Olivia quickly looked up. Can we? Yes, he answered. Let's go. A few hours later, they arrived at the detention facility after obtaining permission to see Felix. The officers escorted them into a small interview room. A few minutes later, Felix entered wearing detention clothes. Olivia immediately stood up. Felix! Felix could not look directly into her eyes. Olivia rushed toward him. Tell me this isn't true. Felix remained silent. Tears filled Olivia's eyes again. Please, tell me. After several painful seconds, Felix finally spoke quietly. Everything they said is true. Olivia froze. What? Felix lowered his head. I have been involved in internet fraud for years. Olivia stepped backwards slowly. No. Felix continued speaking. At first, I only wanted quick money. Then, I couldn't stop. The money became too much. I kept telling myself I would quit after one more deal. Olivia shook her head repeatedly. You lied to me? Felix nodded slowly. Yes. All these years? Yes. Olivia began crying again. Why? Felix looked at her with regret. Because I knew you hated dishonesty. I was afraid you would leave me if you found out. Olivia stared at him with disbelief. So every promise you made, every plan we had? Felix interrupted quietly. I truly loved you. Olivia shook her head. Love built on lies is not love. Chief Akwabata remained silent throughout the conversation, allowing Olivia to process the painful truth herself. The visit ended quietly. As they walked back to the car, Olivia cried harder than ever before. The man she had trusted completely had built their entire relationship on secrets and criminal activities. The engagement ring on her finger suddenly felt heavy. The future she had imagined disappeared before her eyes. Months later, after Felix cooperated with investigators during the court proceedings, the judge gave him a lighter prison sentence. However, every house, luxury item, expensive car, bank account, and property connected to his illegal activities were confiscated by the government. After completing his sentence, Felix contacted Olivia and asked to meet her one final time. Although she had no desire to see him again, she agreed because she wanted closure. They met quietly at a small public park. Felix looked very different from the confident young man she once knew. His expensive clothes were gone. His face looked tired. After greeting each other awkwardly, Felix looked down at her hand. You're still wearing the engagement ring, he said. Olivia remained silent. Felix cleared his throat. Can you return it to me? Olivia frowned. Why? Felix answered without shame. I want to sell it. I need money to start life again. Olivia stared in disbelief. Before she could respond, Felix continued speaking. And since Chief Akwabata likes you, maybe you can talk to him for me. Olivia looked confused. Talk to him about what? Felix smiled weakly. Ask him to help me financially. A man as rich as him won't even notice the money. Olivia stood completely still for several seconds. She could not believe what she was hearing. The man she had once planned to spend her life with was not apologizing for the pain he had caused. Instead, he was asking for money. Without saying a word, Olivia slowly removed the engagement ring from her finger and placed it in Felix's hand. She looked straight into his eyes and said quietly, You are the greatest disappointment of my life. Felix lowered his head without speaking. Olivia took a final look at him before turning around and walking away. She never looked back, finally accepting that the man she had once loved had never truly deserved her trust. After walking away from Felix for the last time, Olivia felt as if a part of her heart had died. The man she had trusted with her future had betrayed her in the worst possible way. For many days, she barely spoke to anyone. She stayed inside her room most of the time, staring through the window or lying quietly on her bed. She had no interest in going out with friends or attending social gatherings. Even when she smiled, the smile disappeared within seconds. Ezine watched her daughter closely and believed this was the perfect time to change the direction of her life. In her mind, Felix was finally out of the picture, and nothing stood between Olivia and Chief Akwabata anymore. One evening, while Olivia sat quietly in the sitting room reading a book without paying much attention to the words on the pages, Ezinne sat beside her. "My daughter," she said gently. Olivia looked up. "Yes, Mama?" Ezinne sighed. "How long will you continue punishing yourself because of Felix?" Olivia closed the book slowly. "I am trying to move on." "Then let's go completely," Ezinne replied. "Forget him forever." Olivia nodded. "I already have." Ezinne smiled faintly. "Good. Now it is time to think about your future." Olivia already knew where the conversation was going. "Mama, please let me finish," Ezinne interrupted softly. "Look at Chief Akwabata. That man has done nothing but show us kindness from the day we met him. He has never disrespected you. He has never lied to you. He has never broken your heart." Olivia remained silent. "He is patient," Ezinne continued. "He is generous. He is respected everywhere. Despite all his wealth, he remains humble. Tell me honestly, where will you find another man like him?" Olivia looked down at her hands. "I respect him very much." "Respect is a good beginning," Ezinne answered quickly. "Love can come later." Olivia shook her head gently. "Mama, it is not that simple." "It is exactly that simple," Ezinne replied. "Sometimes people don't recognize blessings until they lose them." Olivia sighed deeply. "Please don't force this conversation." But Ezinne refused to stop. Day after day, she spoke about Chief Akwabata. Every morning, she reminded Olivia of his good character. Every afternoon, she praised his kindness. Every evening, she talked about the comfortable life Olivia would enjoy if she married him. At first, Olivia listened quietly. Later, she became tired of hearing the same words repeatedly. One afternoon, after another long discussion, Olivia stood up in frustration. "Mama, why can't you leave this matter alone?" she asked. Ezinne looked at her seriously. "Because I don't want you to waste your life." Olivia sighed. "Marriage is something I don't want to rush into." Ezinne folded her arms. "You are no longer a little girl." Olivia remained calm. "That does not mean I should marry someone I do not love." Ezinne became more serious. "Love disappointed you once already." Olivia answered quietly. "That doesn't mean I should stop believing in it." Ezinne looked directly into her daughter's eyes. "Listen carefully. You have already seen what happens when you build your future on empty promises. Felix gave you beautiful words but filled his life with lies. Chief Akwabata has shown you nothing but honesty." Olivia became silent again. As the weeks passed, Ezinne's advice slowly changed into emotional pressure. She no longer simply praised Chief Akwabata. She began speaking in ways that made her uncomfortable. One evening, while they were having dinner together, Ezinne placed her spoon on the table and said quietly, "Chief Akwabata is not a young man." Olivia looked up. "What do you mean?" Ezinne lowered her voice. "Everybody knows he has hypertension." Olivia frowned. "Mama, why are you saying that?" Ezinne continued calmly. "People with high blood pressure can become seriously ill at any time." Olivia looked shocked. "Mama!" Ezinne leaned closer. "Think about it carefully. He has no children, no wife. If you marry him, everything he owns will eventually become yours. After that, you can marry any younger man you want and never know poverty again." Olivia immediately pushed her plate away. "Enough!" she shouted. Ezinne looked surprised by her reaction. Olivia stood up angrily. "How can you even think like that?" Ezinne remained calm. "I am only being realistic." Olivia shook her head with tears forming in her eyes. "That man has done nothing but help us, and you are already planning what will happen after his death?" Ezinne answered confidently. "I am thinking ahead because life has taught me to think ahead." Olivia walked away from the dining table in tears. That night, she cried alone inside her bedroom. She could no longer recognize the woman who had sacrificed everything to raise her. Poverty had changed her way of thinking so deeply that she now saw every relationship as an opportunity for financial security. Days turned into weeks. The pressure never stopped. Whenever Olivia woke up, her mother reminded her about Chief Akwabata. Whenever she returned from job interviews, the conversation started again. Even while watching television, Ezine found ways to bring up his name. Olivia became emotionally exhausted. She was still recovering from Felix's betrayal, yet she could not find peace inside her own home. One afternoon, Chief Akwabata visited the house as he occasionally did. As always, he greeted everyone politely and never behaved like a wealthy man. During the visit, Olivia noticed how respectfully he spoke to her mother and how patiently he listened whenever she talked. Before leaving, he politely asked if he could speak privately with Olivia for a few minutes. She agreed. They stood outside the house near his car. Chief Akwabata looked at her kindly. "Olivia," he began softly, "I know you have gone through a very painful experience." Olivia nodded silently. "I don't want to add more pressure to your life." She looked at him with gratitude. "Thank you." He smiled gently. "But I also don't want to hide my feelings anymore. I admire you deeply. I have admired you from the very first day we met." Olivia remained quiet. Chief Akwabata continued. "I know your heart is still healing, and I respect that. I will never force you into anything, but if you are willing, I would be honored to spend the rest of my life with you." Olivia could not answer immediately. Her mind was filled with confusion. She respected the man standing before her, but she did not love him. Seeing her silence, Chief Akwabata smiled kindly. "Please don't answer today. Take all the time you need. Whatever decision you make, I will respect it." He entered his car and quietly drove away. That evening, Ezine noticed Olivia sitting alone. "Did he speak to you?" she asked. Olivia nodded. "Nah. He asked me to marry him." Ezine almost jumped from her chair with excitement. "And what did you say?" "Nothing." Ezine quickly held her daughter's hands. "Say yes." Olivia closed her eyes. "Mama, I don't love him." Ezine sighed deeply. "Love grows. Security comes first." Olivia whispered. "I don't know what to do anymore." Ezine looked at her with determination. "Then let me help you decide." Over the next several days, Ezine continued persuading her without giving her any peace of mind. Eventually, Olivia became emotionally drained. She was tired of arguing, tired of remembering Felix, tired of disappointing her mother. Most importantly, she was tired of carrying the weight of everyone else's expectations. One evening, she quietly called Chief Akwabata. "Good evening, sir," she said softly. "Good evening, Olivia." There was a brief silence before she spoke again. "I have made my decision." Chief Akwabata listened carefully. Olivia took a deep breath. "I accept your proposal." Chief Akwabata remained silent for a few seconds before replying gently. "Thank you for trusting me." A few months later, preparations for one of the biggest weddings in Lagos began. Newspapers reported the upcoming marriage between billionaire businessman Chief Akwabata Okoso and the brilliant young graduate Olivia Nwosu. The wedding attracted important guests from across Nigeria. Business leaders, politicians, respected traditional rulers, senior government officials, celebrities, and religious leaders all attended the grand ceremony. The event was held in one of the finest event centers in Lagos. Beautiful flowers decorated every corner. A world-class choir performed beautiful songs. Television cameras recorded every moment. Guests admired Olivia's elegant wedding gown and Chief Akwabata's handsome appearance. Everyone smiled and celebrated, except one person. Although Olivia looked beautiful, the happiness on her face never reached her eyes. She smiled politely for photographs, greeted guests respectfully, and fulfilled every part of the ceremony. But deep inside her heart, she still felt empty. After the wedding reception ended, the newly married couple arrived at Chief Akwabata's luxurious mansion. The staff welcomed them warmly before quietly leaving them alone. Olivia stood near one of the large windows looking outside into the beautiful garden. Chief Akwabata noticed that she seemed uncomfortable. Instead of approaching her immediately, he gave her a few moments to breathe. Finally, Olivia turned toward him with tears in her eyes. "I need to tell you something," she said quietly. Chief Akwabata nodded gently. "I'm listening." Olivia lowered her head before continuing. I respect you. I appreciate everything you have done for my mother and me, but my heart is still broken. I cannot honestly tell you that I love you yet. She paused before adding softly, I am not ready to be your wife in every way. I hope you can forgive me. She expected disappointment. She expected anger. She even expected him to remind her that they were already married. Instead, Chief Akwabata smiled gently and walked only close enough for her to feel comfortable. Olivia, he said calmly, thank you for telling me the truth. She looked surprised. He continued, real love cannot be forced. A person's heart cannot be commanded like a servant. Tears rolled down Olivia's cheeks. I am sorry. Chief Akwabata shook his head. Please don't apologize for being honest. Honesty is something I value greatly. Olivia looked at him in disbelief. You are not angry? He smiled warmly. No, but we are husband and wife now. Yes, he answered softly, and because we are husband and wife, I will respect you. Olivia remained speechless. Chief Akwabata continued, I will never force you physically. I will never pressure you emotionally. I will wait. Olivia whispered, what if it takes a long time? He smiled gently. Then I will wait a long time. What if I never become ready? She asked with trembling lips. Olivia looked into his eyes and answered quietly, love is patient. If my love for you is real, then it must also be patient. Olivia could hardly believe what she was hearing. Every fear she had carried into the marriage slowly began to disappear. Instead of demanding his rights as her husband, Chief Akwabata treated her with kindness, understanding, and respect. From that very night onward, he kept every promise he made. He never crossed the boundary she set. He never pressured her to share a bedroom before she was emotionally ready. He spoke to her with gentleness, encouraged her whenever she felt sad, and gave her all the time she needed to heal, showing a level of patience and maturity that completely surprised Olivia because she had expected control, disappointment, or manipulation, not the quiet and genuine respect of a man who truly wanted her heart before anything else. Several peaceful months passed after Olivia and Chief Akwabata got married. Although they lived under the same roof as husband and wife, their relationship remained exactly the way Chief Akwabata had promised. He never forced himself on Olivia or pressured her in any way. Instead, he treated her with patience, kindness, and respect every single day. Every morning, they had breakfast together before he left for work. Every evening, they sometimes sat together in the beautiful garden behind the mansion and talked about life, business, books, and the future. Whenever Olivia felt uncomfortable, Chief Akwabata gave her space without complaining. Slowly, she began to feel safe around him. She still could not honestly say she loved him, but she could no longer deny that he was a good man. The mansion staff also admired the way his employer treated his young wife. Many of them had worked for wealthy families where shouting, insults, and disrespect were common. But Chief Akwabata always spoke politely to everyone, from his security guards to the gardeners. Ezine also visited the mansion often. Since her daughter was now married to one of the richest businessmen in Nigeria, she felt completely comfortable coming and going whenever she pleased. The staff knew her as Madame Olivia's mother, so nobody questioned her movements around the house. Sometimes she came with homemade food for Olivia. Other times she simply came to spend the afternoon chatting. Chief Akwabata welcomed her respectfully every time she visited because he believed she was family. He never imagined that someone he trusted so much could secretly wish him harm. One Monday evening, while having dinner, Chief Akwabata suddenly rubbed the side of his head. Olivia noticed immediately. Are you all right? She asked with concern. He smiled gently. Just a small headache. Olivia looked worried. Should I call the doctor? He shook his head. No, it happens sometimes because of my blood pressure. Once I take my medicine and rest, I will be fine. Olivia nodded. Please, don't ignore your health. Chief Akwabata smiled warmly. I won't. After dinner, he went upstairs, took his medication as usual, and rested. By the following morning, he felt much better. A few days later, while checking his work schedule with his personal assistant, Chief Akwabata remembered an important international business conference that would take place in London. The meeting involved foreign investors who wanted to partner with one of his manufacturing companies. "Please confirm my flight," he instructed his assistant. "Everything has already been arranged, sir," the assistant replied. "Your flight leaves tomorrow morning." Chief Akubata nodded. "Good." That evening, he informed Olivia about the trip. "I will only be away for a few days," he said while they sat together after dinner. Olivia smiled politely. "Have a safe journey." "Thank you. Please take care of yourself." He nodded. "I always do." The following morning began like every other busy day. The staff prepared breakfast early. His driver waited outside beside the official vehicle that would take him to the airport. His luggage had already been loaded into the car. Chief Akubata finished dressing and entered his private study to collect some important business documents. Before leaving the room, he walked toward the small cabinet where he kept his blood pressure medication. As usual, he opened the bottle, removed the prescribed tablets, swallowed them with a glass of water, and prepared to leave. Only a few minutes later, while walking through the hallway toward the front door, he suddenly stopped. His vision became blurry. He placed one hand against the wall for support. A strange dizziness rushed through his body. He tried taking another step, but his legs became weak. "Sir?" one of the housekeepers called after noticing that something was wrong. Before Chief Akubata could answer, he suddenly collapsed heavily onto the polished floor. "Chief!" the housekeeper screamed. Other staff members immediately rushed toward him. Olivia heard the noise from upstairs and ran down the staircase as fast as she could. "What happened?" she cried. She saw Chief Akubata lying unconscious on the floor. "Call an ambulance now!" one of the security officers shouted. The entire mansion became filled with panic. Within minutes, the ambulance arrived and medical personnel quickly carried Chief Akubata inside. Olivia sat beside him throughout the journey to the hospital, holding his hand tightly while praying quietly. "Please don't leave me," she whispered with tears in her eyes. Doctors immediately rushed him into the emergency unit. Olivia remained outside with several members of the household staff. The waiting felt endless. Every minute seemed like an hour. Finally, after several hours, a senior doctor walked out. Olivia quickly stood up. "Doctor, how is he?" The doctor removed his face mask before speaking. "He is stable now." Olivia released a deep sigh of relief. Thank God. But the doctor's serious expression remained unchanged. "However," he continued, "something about his condition does not make sense." Olivia frowned. "What do you mean?" The doctor spoke slowly. "We have carried out several laboratory tests. The medication found in his body is not the medication prescribed for his blood pressure." Olivia became confused. "I don't understand." The doctor spoke slowly. "The tablets he took this morning were different from his normal prescription. Someone appears to have replaced his medication." Olivia's eyes widened in shock. "Replaced it?" "Yes," the doctor answered. "The tablets contain dangerous substances that could have caused fatal complications if treatment had been delayed." Olivia covered her mouth with both hands. "Are you saying someone tried to kill my husband?" The doctor nodded slowly. "At this stage, we cannot make legal conclusions, but medically speaking, this does not appear to be an accident." Olivia became speechless. The doctor continued, "Please be very careful. From now on, nobody should have access to his medication except people you completely trust." Olivia slowly nodded. "Thank you, doctor." A few days later, after recovering well enough to leave the hospital, Chief Akubata returned home. During the drive back to the mansion, he remained unusually quiet. Olivia noticed his silence. "Are you all right?" she asked gently. He smiled faintly. "Yes." "You have hardly spoken since we left the hospital." Chief Akubata looked out through the window. "I have been thinking." Olivia reached for his hand. "The doctor said you should avoid stress." He squeezed her hand gently. "Don't worry about me." Although he spoke calmly, his mind was filled with disturbing questions. Who could have entered his private room? Who knew exactly where he kept his medicine? Why would anyone want him dead? After arriving home, he thanked everyone for their concern, but deliberately chose not to discuss what the doctors had discovered. He wanted whoever was responsible to believe that nothing had been suspected. For the next 2 days, he behaved exactly as he normally would. He attended meetings, spoke politely with the staff, and treated everyone kindly. Secretly, however, he was planning something. Late one evening, after everyone had gone to bed, Chief Akwabata quietly entered the mansion's security control room. The chief security officer immediately stood up. "Good evening, sir." Chief Akwabata smiled gently. "Good evening. I need to review some CCTV recordings." "Certainly, sir." The security officer switched on the monitoring system. "Which date would you like to check?" Chief Akwabata mentioned the date just before he collapsed. "Leave me alone for a while," he added politely. "Yes, sir." The officer quietly left the room. Chief Akwabata sat alone in front of several large computer screens. He carefully began reviewing footage from different cameras installed throughout the mansion. Hour after hour, he watched recordings from the corridors, staircases, living rooms, kitchen, entrance gates, and private hallways. At first, nothing unusual appeared. Staff members moved about performing their normal duties. Olivia spent most of her time reading or working on her laptop. Security guards remained at their posts. Chief Akwabata continued watching patiently. Suddenly, one particular recording caught his attention. The camera outside his private bedroom showed Ezine walking quietly toward his room during one of her regular visits. He frowned. "Why was she going into my room?" he whispered. He continued watching. The recording showed Ezine entering the room with a smile on her face. She looked around as though checking whether anyone was nearby. Then she walked toward the bedside table where his medication was usually kept. At first, she pretended to dust the furniture with a small cloth she was carrying. Then she quietly opened the medicine cabinet. Chief Akwabata stared in the screen in complete disbelief. He watched as Ezine removed the bottle containing his blood pressure medication from the drawer. She looked around one more time before reaching into her handbag. Slowly, she brought out another bottle that looked almost identical. She opened both containers and carefully exchanged the tablets. After replacing the bottles, she closed the cabinet, straightened the room to make everything look normal, smiled to herself, and quietly walked out. Chief Akwabata's hands began shaking. "No," he whispered. Unable to believe what he had just seen, he rewound the footage and watched it again from the beginning. Every movement was clear. Every action was captured perfectly by the hidden camera. There was no misunderstanding. There was no mistake. The woman he had welcomed into his home like family had deliberately replaced his medication with dangerous drugs. Chief Akwabata leaned back slowly in his chair. His eyes became filled with sadness more than anger. "Why?" he whispered to himself. "Why would she do this?" Memories flooded his mind. He remembered giving Ezine money when they first met. He remembered helping her through difficult times. He remembered treating her with kindness and respect. Yet she had repaid her generosity by attempting to end his life. He remained seated in silence for a very long time, watching the recording again and again, hoping he had somehow misunderstood what he was seeing. But the truth never changed. Eventually, he switched off the monitor and quietly covered his face with both hands. He knew he had enough evidence to call the police immediately. Attempted murder was a serious crime and the CCTV footage clearly showed what had happened. But then, another thought entered his mind. Olivia. If Ezine were arrested, Olivia would suffer deeply. She had already experienced heartbreak because of Felix. Now she would also have to watch her own mother face criminal charges. Chief Akwabata closed his eyes and took a deep breath. As painful as the betrayal was, he could not bring himself to destroy Olivia's life. "Not yet," he whispered quietly. Instead of reporting the matter to the authorities immediately, Chief Akwabata made a difficult decision. He would remain silent for the time being while carefully planning how to expose the truth at the right time, protect the innocent woman he genuinely loved, and ensure that justice was done without causing Olivia more pain than she had already endured. After discovering the shocking truth through the security cameras, Chief Akwabata carried a heavy burden in his heart. Every time he saw Ezine smiling and speaking politely, he remembered the video showing her secretly replacing his medication with dangerous tablets. The betrayal hurt him deeply, but he refused to act in anger. He continued treating Ezine with respect whenever she visited the mansion. Olivia noticed nothing unusual. She believed life had returned to normal after her husband's recovery. Unknown to both mother and daughter, Chief Akwabata had already made an important decision. Instead of handing Ezinye over to the police immediately, he wanted to give her one final opportunity to reflect on her actions. At the same time, he had another surprise plan for her. Several months earlier, before discovering the attempted poisoning, he had quietly instructed one of his construction companies to build a beautiful 3-bedroom bungalow for Ezinye in a peaceful part of Lagos. He wanted her to enjoy comfort after many years of hardship. The house had been completed recently, and he had planned to present it to her as a gift. Even after learning what she had done, he decided not to cancel the gift immediately. He wanted to see whether kindness could still touch a heart that had been consumed by greed. One morning, after breakfast, Chief Akwabata called Ezinye on the phone. "Good morning, Madam Ezinye," he said warmly. Ezinye smiled happily when she heard his voice. "Good morning, my son. How are you feeling now?" "I am much better. Thank you for asking." "I thank God for your recovery." Chief Akwabata paused for a moment before speaking again. "I have a surprise for you." Ezinye became curious. "A surprise?" "Yes," he answered. "I would like you to accompany me this afternoon to inspect a property. I believe you will like it." Ezinye's heart immediately became excited. "Of course, I will be ready." "Good. I will come and pick you up by 2 o'clock." "Thank you very much." After ending the call, Ezinye sat quietly for a few seconds with a broad smile on her face. Her mind immediately began imagining expensive houses, landed properties, and luxurious gifts. "God is truly remembering me," she whispered happily. She quickly entered her bedroom and began searching for her best clothes. She selected an expensive outfit Chief Akwabata had bought for her during one of her birthdays. She carefully ironed it and laid it on the bed. Then she opened her small jewelry box and chose her finest necklace and earrings. Looking at herself in the mirror, she smiled proudly. "Very soon," she said softly, "all this wealth will belong to my daughter." Meanwhile, inside the mansion, Olivia had spent the entire night thinking deeply. For months, she had tried to convince herself that everything would somehow become easier, but instead she felt more guilty with each passing day. Chief Akwabata had kept every promise he made. He respected her feelings, treated her kindly, and never forced her into anything. Yet, she still could not honestly tell him she loved him. Every time he smiled at her with kindness, she felt ashamed because she knew she could not return his feelings. She believed she was wasting his time and preventing him from finding a woman who could truly love him. That morning, she finally made a painful decision. She would ask for a divorce. She knew the decision would break her mother's heart, but she could no longer continue living a life that felt dishonest. Around noon, Olivia drove to her mother's house before Chief Akwabata arrived. Ezinye welcomed her happily. "My daughter, you came at the right time." Olivia forced a smile. "Good afternoon, Mama." Ezinye held her hands. "Do you know what happened this morning?" Olivia shook her head. "No." "Chief Akwabata called me. He is taking me to inspect a property this afternoon. I am sure he wants to give me another surprise." Olivia smiled politely but remained quiet. Ezinye noticed her daughter's serious face. "What is wrong?" Olivia took a deep breath. "Mama, I came because I need to tell you something important." Ezinye sat down slowly. "Go ahead." Olivia lowered her eyes. "I have decided to divorce Chief Akwabata." For a moment, complete silence filled the room. Ezinye stared at her daughter as though she had heard the wrong words. "What did you just say?" she asked slowly. Olivia looked up with tears in her eyes. "I want a divorce." Ezinye immediately stood up. "Are you out of your mind?" Olivia remained calm, despite her mother's anger. "Mama, please listen to me." "No," Ezinye shouted. "You listen to me." Olivia tried to explain. I cannot continue pretending. He deserves someone who truly loves him. Ezine laughed bitterly. Love? You are talking about love again? Olivia nodded. Yes. Ezine pointed towards the door. That man rescued us from poverty. He gave us respect. He gave you comfort. He has never treated you badly. I know, Olivia replied quietly. Then what exactly is your problem? Ezine demanded. Tears rolled down Olivia's cheeks. My problem is that I cannot continue deceiving a good man. He deserves honesty. Ezine became furious. Honesty will not feed you in old age. Olivia looked shocked. Mama, do you think marriage is only about romance? Marriage is about security. It is about survival. It is about building a future. Olivia answered softly. Marriage should also be built on love. Ezine shook her head violently. Love does not pay hospital bills. Love does not buy houses. Love does not protect people from poverty. Olivia stood up. Money is not everything. Money is not everything, Ezine repeated angrily. Have you forgotten how we suffered after your father abandoned us? Have you forgotten sleeping with empty stomachs? Have you forgotten landlords insulting us because we could not pay rent? Olivia's voice trembled. I remember everything. Then stop talking like a child, Ezine shouted. God brought Chief Akwabata into your life for a reason. Olivia wiped away her tears. God would never want me to continue lying to an innocent man. Ezine's face became harder. Do you know what you are throwing away? Olivia nodded. Yes. Ezine pointed angrily toward her. You are throwing away the greatest opportunity our family has ever received. Olivia answered quietly. If I stay in that marriage without love, I will destroy both his happiness and mine. Ezine's breathing became heavier as her anger increased. You will not leave that marriage, she shouted. Do you hear me? You will remain there. Olivia shook her head gently. Mama, this is my decision. Ezine stepped closer. I sacrificed everything to raise you, and this is how you repay me? Olivia cried openly. Please don't make this harder than it already is. Harder? Ezine almost screamed. You are destroying our future. Olivia looked directly into her mother's eyes. I would rather be poor and honest than rich through deception. Those words struck Ezine like a heavy blow. She placed one hand on her chest. Olivia immediately noticed. Mama? Ezine tried to speak again, but her words became unclear. She staggered backward, struggling to breathe properly. Mama! Olivia rushed toward her. Ezine suddenly clutched her chest tightly, her face twisted in pain. Before Olivia could reach her, she collapsed heavily onto the floor. Mama! Olivia screamed loudly. Neighbors immediately rushed into the house after hearing the desperate cries. One of them quickly called an ambulance, while another helped lift Ezine carefully onto a couch. Olivia held her mother's hand tightly. Please stay with me, she cried. Please don't leave me. Within minutes, the ambulance arrived. Medical workers quickly examined Ezine before carrying her inside. Olivia followed them to the hospital with tears flowing endlessly down her face. At the hospital, doctors immediately rushed Ezine into the emergency room. Olivia called Chief Akwabata with trembling hands. Please come, she cried over the phone. Mama has collapsed. I'm on my way, Chief Akwabata answered immediately. Less than 30 minutes later, he arrived at the hospital. He found Olivia sitting outside the emergency unit crying quietly. Without saying a word, he sat beside her and gently held her hand. She will be all right, he said softly. Olivia leaned against him as fresh tears filled her eyes. This is all my fault. Chief Akwabata shook his head. Don't blame yourself. Several hours later, the doctor came out looking serious. Are you the patient's relatives? He asked. Yes, Chief Akwabata answered. How is she? The doctor sighed. She suffered a severe stroke. Olivia covered her mouth with both hands. Can she recover? The doctor spoke honestly. We are doing everything possible, but her condition is critical. The next 2 days were filled with fear and uncertainty. Ezine drifted in and out of consciousness. Machines surrounded her bed. Doctors and nurses monitored her constantly. Olivia refused to leave the hospital. She barely ate or slept. Chief Akwabata remained by her side, encouraging her and handling all the hospital expenses without hesitation. On the third day, one of the doctors informed them that Ezine wanted to speak to them privately. Olivia quickly entered the room together with Chief Akwabata. Ezine looked very weak. Her voice was soft and tears filled her eyes. She stretched out her trembling hand toward Olivia. Olivia immediately held it tightly. "Mama," she whispered. Ezine struggled to speak. "Forgive me." Olivia shook her head while crying. "Please don't talk like that." Ezine looked at both of them with deep regret. "Greed," she whispered painfully. "Greed destroyed my heart." Olivia cried harder. Ezine continued slowly. "I wanted money more than peace. I wanted wealth more than truth." She turned weakly toward Chief Akwabata. Tears rolled down her cheeks. "You are good to me, but I repaid you with evil." Chief Akwabata remained silent. Ezine closed her eyes briefly before continuing. "I nearly destroyed an innocent man." Olivia was confused, but before she could ask any questions, Ezine continued speaking with great difficulty. "I poisoned my own heart with greed until I almost became a murderer." Chief Akwabata lowered his head quietly. Ezine looked at Olivia again. "I pushed you into a marriage you did not choose. I cared more about money than your happiness." Olivia cried uncontrollably. "Mama, please." Ezine squeezed her daughter's hand weakly. "Forgive me for everything." She looked one final time at Chief Akwabata. "Please, forgive me too." Chief Akwabata nodded gently with tears in his own eyes. "I forgive you." A small smile appeared on Ezine's face. "Thank you." She closed her eyes slowly. The heart monitor beside her bed suddenly began making a continuous sound. Nurses rushed into the room. Doctors immediately began to try and save her. Olivia stepped backward in fear. "Mama!" she screamed. For several minutes, the medical team fought desperately to bring Ezine back. But eventually, the senior doctor slowly removed his gloves, looked at Olivia with sadness, and quietly shook his head. Ezine was gone. Olivia broke down completely, crying louder than she had ever cried before. She held her mother's lifeless hand, remembering every sacrifice, every lesson, every argument, and every mistake that had brought them to this painful moment. Chief Akwabata stood quietly beside her, his own heart filled with sadness, knowing that greed had finally met its painful judgment and had taken away the woman who once had been willing to sacrifice everything for her daughter, only to lose herself by placing wealth above truth, love, and integrity. But Ezine continued without stopping. The days after Ezine's burial were some of the hardest days Olivia had ever experienced. The once cheerful house where she and her mother had lived now felt painfully empty. Every corner reminded her of the woman who had sacrificed so much to raise her, but had also allowed greed to cloud her judgment. Sometimes Olivia sat quietly in the sitting room, staring at the empty chair where her mother used to sit every evening. Other times, she walked into the kitchen expecting to hear her mother's voice calling her name, only to remember that she was gone forever. The silence inside the house was almost unbearable. At night, sleep hardly came. Whenever she closed her eyes, memories flooded her mind. She remembered the happy moments they had shared, the painful arguments they had had, and the heartbreaking words her mother spoke before taking her final breath. She remembered how Ezine admitted that greed had destroyed her peace and nearly turned her into a murderer. Those words echoed repeatedly in her heart. She blamed herself for many things, even though Chief Akwabata constantly reminded her that she was not responsible for her mother's choices. During those difficult weeks, Chief Akwabata remained patient and supportive. He attended to every responsibility connected with the burial without complaining. He paid every bill quietly. He made sure Olivia lacked nothing. He checked on her every day, asking if she had eaten or if she needed anything. He never spoke about the attempted poisoning. He never mentioned the confession Ezine made in the hospital. Instead, he focused only on helping Olivia heal from the pain of losing her mother. His kindness touched Olivia deeply, but it also increased the burden inside her heart. The more respectfully he treated her, the guiltier she felt. She knew she was living with a man who loved her sincerely, yet she could not return that love. One evening, while sitting alone in the mansion's beautiful garden, Olivia watched the sun slowly disappear behind the trees. She thought about everything that had happened since the day she met Chief Akwabata outside the shopping mall. She remembered how politely he had greeted her and her mother. She remembered every act of kindness he had shown them. She remembered how patiently he had waited for her after their marriage without forcing himself into her life. Tears rolled down her cheeks. He deserves better than this, she whispered to herself. That night, Olivia made the hardest decision of her life. She would ask for a divorce. She loved and respected Chief Akwabata as a good man, but she knew she could not continue pretending that she was happy. She believed he deserved the chance to find a woman who would truly love him with her whole heart. The following morning, after breakfast, she knocked gently on the door of Chief Akwabata's private study. "Come in," he said warmly. Olivia slowly entered the room. Chief Akwabata looked up from the document on his desk and immediately noticed the sadness on his face. "Is everything all right?" he asked gently. Olivia swallowed nervously. "Can we talk?" He smiled kindly. "Of course, please sit down." Olivia sat opposite him, but for several moments she could not find the courage to speak. Chief Akwabata remained patient. Finally, she looked into his eyes with tears already forming. "I owe you the truth," she whispered. Chief Akwabata listened quietly. Olivia took a deep breath. "From the day we got married, you have treated me with kindness, patience, and respect. You have never shouted at me. You have never forced me to do anything against my will. You have been everything a good husband should be." Chief Akwabata smiled gently. "Thank you." Olivia's tears began falling. "That is exactly why this is so difficult." He remained silent, allowing her to continue. "I cannot keep deceiving you." Her voice shook as she spoke. "This marriage was never truly my own decision." Chief Akwabata slowly lowered his eyes. Although he had suspected it for a long time, hearing the words still hurt deeply. Olivia continued through her tears. "I accepted your proposal because I was emotionally broken after everything Felix did to me and because my mother kept pressuring me every single day. I was tired of fighting. I was tired of disappointing her. I convinced myself that maybe everything would eventually become normal, but it hasn't." She wiped away her tears with trembling hands. "I respect you more than words can ever explain, but respect is not the same as love." The room became completely quiet. Chief Akwabata remained seated without interrupting her. Olivia looked directly at him. "If I force you to remain in this marriage, I would become the very kind of man I never wanted to be." Olivia looked at him with surprise. He continued softly. "Real love cannot exist where freedom does not exist." She whispered, "Does that mean?" He nodded gently. "If divorce is truly what you want, I will not stand in your way." Olivia covered her face with both hands and cried openly. "Thank you." Chief Akwabata forced a small smile despite the pain in his heart. "I only have one request." Olivia looked up. "What is it?" "Never apologize for choosing honesty." A few weeks later, after the legal process was completed peacefully without public drama or unnecessary conflict, Olivia quietly packed her belongings inside the mansion. She refused every attempt by the household staff to help her because she wanted to live with dignity. She placed her clothes inside 2 simple suitcases, exactly as she had brought them into the house after the wedding. Before leaving, she walked into the sitting room where Chief Akwabata was waiting quietly. She removed her wedding ring and placed it gently on the table between them. "This belongs to you," she said softly. Chief Akwabata looked at the ring but did not touch it immediately. Olivia continued speaking. "I cannot keep it." She then brought out the keys to the luxury SUV. "I also cannot keep the vehicle." Chief Akwabata frowned slightly. "Why?" Olivia answered honestly. "It was never mine. It was your gift. I do not have the right to take it after ending our marriage." Chief Akwabata remained silent. Olivia then handed him several property documents. "These houses and lands you bought in my name, I cannot accept them either." He looked surprised. "Olivia?" She gently interrupted him. "Please let me finish." He nodded. "I came into your life with nothing. I will leave with nothing. I refuse to benefit from a marriage that could not continue. Chief Akwabata stared at her quietly. For the first time since they met, tears slowly formed in his eyes. Every expensive gift she returned only strengthened the belief he had always carried in his heart that Olivia was a woman of uncommon integrity. Many people would have gladly accepted the houses, the car, and every expensive possession before walking away. But Olivia wanted none of it. She valued her peace of mind more than material things. Chief Akwabata slowly stood up and looked at her for several moments. "You have taught me something today," he said softly. Olivia looked confused. "What have I taught you?" He smiled sadly. "That true character cannot be bought." Olivia lowered her head quietly. A few minutes later, she picked up her 2 suitcases and prepared to leave. Just as she reached the front door, Chief Akwabata called her name, "Olivia." She turned around. "Yes?" He smiled gently. "Before you go, there is one more thing." Olivia looked puzzled. Chief Akwabata walked toward his desk, picked up his mobile phone, and quietly made a brief call. "Please confirm that the transfer has been completed," he said. After ending the call, he looked at Olivia. A few seconds later, her phone vibrated with a bank notification. She opened the message and immediately froze. Her eyes widened in complete shock. 100 million naira, she whispered. She looked up at him in disbelief. "What is this?" Chief Akwabata smiled gently. "A fresh beginning." Olivia quickly shook her head. "No, I cannot accept this." Chief Akwabata remained calm. "Yes, you can." She placed the phone on the table. "I don't want your money." He smiled. "I know." "Then why are you doing this?" He answered quietly. "Because I want you to build the future you deserve." Before Olivia could argue again, another man entered the sitting room carrying a sealed envelope. Chief Akwabata collected it and handed it to her. "Open it." Olivia slowly opened the envelope. Inside was an official appointment letter offering her a senior executive position at one of the country's leading oil companies. Her hands began shaking. "What is this?" she whispered. She looked up at him in disbelief. "What happened here?" Chief Akwabata smiled gently. "I made a few phone calls. They interviewed your qualifications and accepted you because you earned it. Your first-class degree opened the door. I only introduced your name." Olivia could no longer hold back her tears. "Why?" she whispered. "Why are you still helping me after everything?" Chief Akwabata looked at her with sadness and warmth at the same time. "Because loving someone does not always mean keeping them." Olivia remained speechless. He continued softly. "True love continues wishing someone happiness even when they choose a different path." Those words broke the last barrier around Olivia's heart. She cried openly, overwhelmed by the kindness of the man she was leaving behind. Chief Akwabata smiled sadly as he watched her, knowing that although she was walking away from his life, he still wanted nothing more than for her to live a happy, successful, and peaceful future. Several months passed after Olivia left Chief Akwabata's mansion. Her new job at one of Nigeria's leading oil companies kept her busy every weekday, and she quickly earned the respect of her colleagues because of her intelligence, honesty, and hard work. She arrived at the office early every morning and always completed her responsibilities with excellence. The 100 million naira that Chief Akwabata had transferred into her account remained untouched except for a small amount she used to settle a few important needs. She refused to waste the money because she remembered that he had called it a fresh beginning. Although her career was moving forward, her personal life felt painfully empty. Every evening after work, she returned to the quiet house where she had once lived with her mother. The silence inside the house was different now. There was nobody to ask how her day had gone. Nobody prepared dinner while talking about ordinary family matters. Nobody reminded her to rest after a long day at work. Sometimes she entered the sitting room and automatically looked toward the chair where Ezine used to sit, only to remember that her mother was gone forever. On weekends, the loneliness became even stronger. She often cleaned the house herself, watered the flowers outside, and spent long hours reading or sitting quietly by the window. During those lonely moments, she found herself thinking deeply about every decision that had changed her life. One Saturday afternoon, she opened an old family photo album. She smiled sadly as she looked at pictures of herself and her mother during happier years. Then she found photographs from her wedding to Chief Akubata. She stared at them for a long time. Everyone in the pictures looked happy. The guests were smiling, the decorations were beautiful, the ceremony had been grand. Yet, she remembered that behind her smile was a heart filled with confusion and pain. She gently closed the album and whispered, "If only I had understood everything earlier." That night, sleep refused to come. Olivia lay awake in bed, thinking about the two men who had changed the course of her life forever. Her thoughts first turned to Felix. She remembered the excitement of their university days. She remembered the dreams they had shared and the promises they had made to each other. She remembered his romantic proposal surrounded by flowers and candles. For a brief moment, those memories almost made her smile. But then another memory quickly followed. She remembered the loud knock on his apartment door. She remembered the officers from the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission entering the room. She remembered watching Felix being handcuffed before her eyes. Most painfully, she remembered sitting across from him in the detention facility while he admitted that every accusation against him was true. He remembered how he confessed that he had spent years living a double life. He had spoken beautiful words of love while secretly building his future through crime, lies, and deception. He remembered the final meeting after his release from prison, when instead of apologizing sincerely, he asked for the engagement ring so he could sell it. He even asked her to persuade Chief Akubata to give him money. Olivia slowly wiped away a tear. "That was never love," she whispered. "It was selfishness." She turned onto her other side and closed her eyes again. This time, her thoughts drifted toward Chief Akubata. She remembered the first day they met outside the shopping mall. She remembered how politely he spoke to both her and her mother. She remembered how patiently he accepted her refusal to use the luxury SUV. She remembered his gentle smile whenever they had breakfast together after their marriage. She remembered how he never entered her room without permission. She remembered how he always knocked before opening the door, even though they were legally husband and wife. She remembered how he asked every evening whether she had eaten well or whether she needed anything. She remembered how he comforted her after her mother's death instead of blaming her for everything that had happened. Most of all, she remembered the day she asked for a divorce. Any other man might have shouted in anger or refused to let her leave peacefully. Chief Akubata had done none of those things. Instead, he accepted her painful decision with dignity. He allowed her to leave without humiliation. He respected her freedom, even though it broke his own heart. Then he gave her financial security and helped her begin a new career, asking for absolutely nothing in return. Olivia slowly opened her eyes again. Her heart felt heavy. "Why didn't I see it before?" she whispered into the darkness. The following weeks became a season of deep reflection. Every day after work, she spent time thinking about everything she had experienced. She no longer compared men based on age, appearance, or wealth. Instead, she began to compare their character. Felix had promised forever, but secretly betrayed her trust. Chief Akubata had quietly protected her dignity every step of the way. Felix had hidden lies behind romantic words. Chief Akubata had spoken the truth even when it cost him happiness. Felix had thought first about himself. Chief Akubata had consistently thought first about her. One evening, while sitting on the small balcony outside her house, Olivia softly spoke to herself. "I spent so much time looking for love that I failed to recognize it when it stood right in front of me." She remembered something Chief Akubata had once told her after the divorce. True love continues wishing someone happiness even when they choose a different path. At the time, she had been too overwhelmed to understand the depth of those words. Now, they finally made sense. She realized that genuine love was not measured by expensive gifts, sweet speeches, or dramatic promises. True love revealed itself through daily actions. It showed itself through patience, kindness, forgiveness, sacrifice, respect, honesty, and the willingness to put another person's happiness before your own. As these thoughts continued filling her mind, something unexpected began happening. She started missing Chief Akwabata. At first, she thought she only missed his kindness. Then she realized she also missed their evening conversations in the garden. She missed the calm sound of his voice. She missed the wisdom he shared during simple conversations. She missed the way he always listened carefully before giving advice. She even missed the quiet peace she had felt whenever he was nearby. Every morning, as she drove to work, she found herself wondering whether he had eaten breakfast. Every evening, she wondered whether he was taking his blood pressure medication correctly. During lunch breaks, she sometimes caught herself smiling while remembering the jokes he occasionally told to make her laugh during difficult days. One afternoon, a female colleague noticed that Olivia seemed distracted. "You have been unusually quiet today," the woman said. Olivia smiled faintly. "I have been thinking." "About work?" Olivia shook her head. "About life." The colleague laughed softly. "Life can be complicated." Olivia nodded. "Sometimes we understand important things only after losing them." The woman looked at her curiously. "Did something happen?" Olivia smiled sadly. "I think I finally understand what love really means." Her colleague smiled warmly. "That sounds important." Olivia simply nodded without saying anything else. Several more weeks passed, but the feelings inside her heart only grew stronger. Every attempt to ignore them failed. One rainy evening, she stood by the living room window watching the rain fall gently onto the street outside. Suddenly, she imagined Chief Akwabata standing beside her, quietly commenting on how peaceful the rain looked. The memory felt so real that she turned her head for a moment before realizing she was alone. Tears slowly rolled down her cheeks. "I miss you," she whispered. For the first time since their divorce, she admitted those words aloud. That night, she knelt beside her bed and prayed quietly. "God," she said through her tears, "I have made many mistakes. I failed to recognize a good man when you placed him in my life. If I have truly learnt my lesson, please give me the courage to make things right. And if it is too late, then help me accept the consequences with peace." After finishing her prayer, Olivia slept more peacefully than she had in many months. The following morning, she woke up with unusual determination. She no longer wanted to live with unanswered questions or lifelong regrets. She knew Chief Akwabata might reject her. He had every reason to refuse seeing her again after everything she had put him through. He might already have moved on with his life. He might no longer trust her. But she also knew that if she remained silent, she would always wonder what might have happened if she had been brave enough to speak honestly. After getting dressed, she walked toward the small table where she kept her car keys. She paused for a moment, took a deep breath, and whispered to herself, "Whatever happens, I must tell him the truth." She picked up her handbag, locked the front door, and walked slowly to her car. As she drove through the busy streets of Lagos, her heart beat faster with every passing minute. Different thoughts filled her mind. What if he refuses to see me? What if he has stopped caring? What if I have already lost him forever? Still, she continued driving. Eventually, the familiar gates of Chief Akwabata's magnificent mansion came into view. She slowed the car and stopped just outside the entrance. For a few long moments, she remained seated behind the steering wheel, staring at the gate where she had once entered as a wife and later left as a divorced woman. Her hands trembled slightly as she gathered the courage to step out of the car, uncertain whether Chief Akwabata would even agree to see her again after everything that had happened. Olivia stood quietly outside the large gate of Chief Akwabata's mansion, with her heart beating faster than ever before. She had sat inside her car for several minutes, trying to gather enough courage to walk to the entrance. The security guards recognized her immediately because they had known her as the lady of the house before the divorce. One of them smiled respectfully and greeted her. "Good afternoon, madam." Olivia smiled nervously. "Good afternoon." The guard looked surprised but remained polite. "It is good to see you again." Olivia took a deep breath. "Is Chief Akwabata at home?" "Yes, madam," the guard replied. He's inside the house. Olivia looked down for a moment before speaking again. Please tell him Olivia is here. The security guard nodded. Please wait here for a moment. He quickly walked into the mansion while Olivia stood quietly, twisting her fingers together as fear filled her heart. She wondered whether Chief Akwabata would refuse to see her. She wondered whether he had finally moved on after all the pain she had caused him. Every second felt like a whole hour. Inside the mansion, Chief Akwabata was sitting in the living room reading some business reports when one of the security guards entered respectfully. Sir, the guard said. Chief Akwabata looked up. Yes? Someone is here to see you. Who is it? The guard smiled gently. Madam Olivia. Chief Akwabata froze completely. For several seconds, he simply stared at the guard without saying a word. He slowly removed his reading glasses and placed them on the table. What did you say? He asked quietly. Madam Olivia is outside, sir. Chief Akwabata thought he had heard wrongly. He stood up slowly. Are you sure? Yes, sir. His heart began beating faster. After all these months, he had never expected to hear her name at his date again. He slowly walked toward the entrance of the mansion. Every step brought back memories of the woman he had loved with all his heart. When he reached the living room entrance and looked outside, he saw Olivia standing quietly near the doorway. For a brief moment, he wondered whether he was dreaming. She looked exactly as he remembered her, but there was something different about her eyes. The sadness that had once lived there had been replaced by humility and quiet peace. Olivia looked up and their eyes met. Neither of them spoke for several seconds. Chief Akwabata could hardly believe she was really standing before him. Before he could say a single word, Olivia suddenly ran toward him. Tears streamed freely down her face as she reached him and wrapped both arms tightly around him. I am so sorry, she cried. I am so sorry. Chief Akwabata stood completely still, surprised by the sudden embrace. Slowly, he wrapped his arms around her. Olivia continued crying against his chest. Please forgive me, she whispered repeatedly. Please forgive me. Chief Akwabata gently held her, while allowing her to cry. After several minutes, Olivia slowly stepped back and looked into his eyes. Tears still covered her face. May we talk? She asked softly. Chief Akwabata nodded. Come inside. They entered the familiar living room where they had once shared many quiet conversations. Everything looked almost the same as before. Chief Akwabata invited her to sit down, but Olivia remained standing. I don't deserve to sit until I tell you why I came. Chief Akwabata looked at her kindly. Go ahead. I am listening. Olivia took a deep breath, trying to control her emotions. After I left this house, I believed I was doing the right thing. She paused briefly. I knew I could not continue living a dishonest life, and I still believe telling you the truth was the right decision. Chief Akwabata nodded gently. I agree. Olivia continued. But after leaving, I began to understand many things that I had never understood before. Tears returned to her eyes. Every day, I thought about everything that happened between us. She smiled sadly. I remembered Felix. Chief Akwabata remained silent. I remembered how he promised me the whole world while secretly building his life on lies. She shook her head slowly. Then I remembered you. She looked directly into his eyes. You never promised me a perfect life. Instead, you gave me something much greater. Chief Akwabata listened quietly. Olivia's voice became stronger as she continued. You respected me when I could not love you. You protected my dignity when I rejected you. You comforted me after my mother's death instead of blaming me for what happened. You let me live peacefully when I asked for a divorce. Then you helped me build a new life when you had every reason to turn your back on me. She wiped away fresh tears. Every day, I kept asking myself one question. Chief Akwabata smiled gently. What question? Olivia answered softly. What kind of man continues loving someone after having his heart broken? Silence filled the room again. Olivia slowly stepped closer. I am not here because of your money. She shook her head firmly. I returned your properties. I returned your car. I returned your wedding ring because I wanted you to know that I never wanted your wealth. She placed one hand gently over her heart. Today, I have my own career. I can take care of myself. I am not standing here because of security. I am not standing here because of pressure from my mother. She is no longer here to force me into anything. Her voice trembled as she continued. I am standing here because I finally understand what my heart has been telling me. She looked straight into his eyes and whispered, I love you. Chief Akwabata closed his eyes for a brief moment as tears slowly filled them. Olivia continued speaking through her tears. I don't want to be your wife because you are wealthy. I don't want to be your wife because people will admire me. I want to be your wife because you are a good man. You chose kindness instead of revenge. You chose patience instead of pride. You forgave me instead of bitterness. You loved me when I could not love you back. She reached for his hands. If you can ever trust me again, I want us to begin again. This time, not because anyone forced us together. This time, because I truly love you with all my heart. For several moments, Chief Akwabata could not speak. Every painful memory returned to his mind. He remembered the lonely nights after the divorce. He remembered signing the divorce papers with tears hidden behind his smile. He remembered praying that Olivia would one day find true happiness, even if that happiness did not include him. Never in his greatest dreams had he imagined that she would one day return willingly. Finally, he smiled through his tears. Olivia, he said softly, do you know something? She shook her head. From the first day I saw you outside that shopping mall, I asked God for only one thing. Olivia looked at him curiously. What did you ask? He smiled warmly. I asked him that if it was his will, one day you would freely choose me. Tears rolled down Olivia's face once more. Chief Akwabata gently lifted her chin. Today my prayer has been answered. Olivia could no longer hold back her emotions. She embraced him again. This time, Chief Akwabata hugged her tightly without hesitation. Both of them cried quietly, not because of pain anymore, but because two wounded hearts had finally found healing. After several minutes, Chief Akwabata gently kissed her forehead. Welcome home, he whispered. A few months later, surrounded by close friends, family members, and respected church leaders, Olivia and Chief Akwabata celebrated a simple but deeply meaningful wedding ceremony. Unlike the first wedding, this celebration was not built on pressure or fear. There were no hidden tears behind Olivia's smile. This time, every smile came from her heart. When they exchanged their marriage vows again, they both spoke with complete honesty. They promised to remain faithful, patient, truthful, forgiving, and supportive through every season of life. Their second marriage truly became the beginning of their real love story. They became best friends before anything else. They shared every decision together. They prayed together every morning before beginning their daily activities. They laughed together during simple family dinners. They discussed problems openly without hiding their feelings. Their home became filled with peace because both husband and wife had learned the value of honesty, forgiveness, and mutual respect. 2 years later, another miracle filled the mansion with joy. Olivia gave birth to healthy twins, a beautiful baby boy and a lovely baby girl. The once lonely mansion that had echoed with silence now rang with children's laughter, tiny footsteps, bedtime stories, birthday celebrations, and happy family moments. Chief Akwabata often carried both children around the house with a smile that never left his face. Sometimes he would quietly watch Olivia playing with the twins in the garden and thank God for giving him a family he had once believed he would never have. Remembering their painful journey and the struggles that had shaped their lives, the couple decided they wanted their blessings to become blessings for others. Together, they established charitable foundations across Nigeria. One foundation provided financial support and business training for widows who struggled to care for their families. Another awarded scholarships to brilliant students whose parents could not afford higher education. They also funded free medical care for vulnerable families who could not pay hospital bills and invested in businesses that created employment opportunities for thousands of young Nigerians. Everywhere they went, people admired not only their wealth, but also their generosity, humility, and compassion. Their remarkable journey became an inspiration to many, reminding people that money alone cannot build a happy home. Their lives proved that wealth may attract attention, but only genuine love, integrity, patience, forgiveness, kindness, respect, selflessness, and unwavering commitment can build a marriage strong enough to stand the test of time and last a lifetime. Lesson: true love is not built on money, beauty, or empty promises. Real love is shown through honesty, patience, kindness, forgiveness, respect, and sacrifice. Greed, lies, and manipulation can destroy families and bring great pain. But truth and integrity always lead to lasting peace. Never marry because of wealth or pressure from others. Choose a partner because of genuine love and good character. In the end, true happiness comes to those who value honesty, trust, and selfless love above material possessions. Thanks for watching this amazing story on African Stories by V. If you liked it and felt inspired, please show your support by clicking the like button, sharing with your friends, and leaving a comment below. To see more interesting stories and learn about different cultures, subscribe to African Stories by V, and don't forget to ring the notification bell so you never miss a new story. Your support means a lot and helps us bring more stories to you. Until we meet again, stay connected, stay inspired, and keep smiling.